んだって思ったら嫉妬なんて消えちゃったんだ。だって僕と一緒だもん。ありがとうございます。
Perfection. There really isn't another word for the end of the season of Mushoku Tensei. You know, one of the things that I'm always talking about on this channel, you know, as we come to the end or reach the end of a season of anime, is always how you feel when it ends. And I think that emotional connection you have to, you know, 12 weeks, 24 weeks, 52 weeks, however many episodes and however much time you invested into this show, I think it's always kind of that show's duty to give you something back for all that time and potentially money too that you've invested into the show. When I say money, like streaming services and like, you know, all the things that you have to pay to actually be able to watch the show, right? So I always think that it's kind of like it's their job to kind of give you some kind of payoff, whether it's like emotional or whether it's excitement or just some kind of strong feeling. And I think it's without doubt that Mushoku Tensei is a masterpiece, and I've been saying that for the longest time. It might literally be, you know, I think it's one of the best anime ever, but I think it could very well be like the best isekai anime ever, and to kind of like really set the bar for what is isekai. Now, with episode 12, like this was just a masterpiece. It was a masterclass of its own. This had Rudy. I mean, for all intensive purposes, it had Rudy growing up and becoming an adult finally. And we're now moving into that second phase of his life. And I think that is, you know, very powerful for the show, for the character, for us as we're invested into this show. I just think that's such a very powerful moment for him to go from kid to adult. Whether it took him, you know, 40 plus years to actually do it because of his, you know, 30 plus in his past life and 15 plus over here in this life. Regardless, I think that he has finally made that growth as a character, as a person, as a human being. And I just thought that was just such a really cool moment. And if you let it pass you by without really grasping what just happened, it really was the transition of Rudius Gray Rat from kid, teen to adult in all facets, physically and specifically mentally. And I love how Rudy recognized that as well too, of like, you know, I've been pretending this whole time to be, you know, to be something that I'm not. I'm finally that thing, you know. And I was like, that is such a really emotional moment. And it took him kind of sharing a drink with Paul at the end to kind of like realize and come around to it. And it really acknowledged Paul too as his dad. And I thought that was just such a really powerful and emotional moment at the end of the show. And I was like, that hit, you know, that hit. Before that, though, you know, let me kind of go through the episode and I'll talk about my favorite part of the show. So, you know, they get home, you know, he finally gets home and, you know, he's extremely worried about, you know, what man God, you know, man God, is that it? Man God? Yeah. He's, you know, so worried about what man God has said about, you know, don't go to Begaret, you know, don't leave. You know, you have Sylphie, you have your family, you know, what could happen, you know, basically planting that seed of doubt for whatever reason into Rudy. So he's freaking out of like Norn and Aisha and Sylphie's like, are they okay? And, you know, he starts having all this, you know, everything just kind of comes to the front. So he freaks out and he runs to his house, and his house, you know, obviously Sylphie's out. She's doing her thing. Norn's at school. Aisha looks like she's just waking up. He starts freaking out, having like a mental breakdown. But then, you know, slowly Aisha appears. Sylphie comes home. You know, Norn ends up coming home later on, and, you know, he's in a good spot. And then they have to sit down and explain to Norn about, you know, how Paul died and stuff. And I was like, that was just that whole scene. I don't think you could do it better, right? Like everybody who's everybody from Norn's perspective is there, but Paul, including Zenith. And I think it shows us how, not to discredit Zenith, however you want to say her name, not to discredit her in any way, shape, or form, but, and this is kind of a sad statement, but the main parent really was Paul. And if you think about it from her two children, it's kind of sad in a way, because I think Zenith was an awesome character and she was an awesome mom. I just think she lost the opportunity to be that. So when the great disaster happened, Zenith got beamed out with Paul at whatever she was, 3 years old. She's very small. So she's basically lived the last years of her life up to moving with Rudius only with Paul. So like Paul was mom, dad, everything, her only person. So yes, Zenith is important, but she lost all that time with Norn. Zenith lost all that time with Norn. And to her, Paul is, top of the pedestal. Like there's nobody more important than Paul from a parental figure, from familial, it's Paul, Rudy, and then, it's Paul, Rudy, Aisha, Zenith, And then from the opposite side of it with Rudy, with just sharing this emotional moment with Paul and stuff, although he is a grown man in a kid's body, he recognized that, Zenith is his mom and stuff like that. But the thing is with Rudy too, is even when he was younger, although he did have his mom and he did spend time with her, but the shorter time that he spent, that's 7 years until he was sent away, he was spent kind of shooting the shit with Paul a lot and butting heads, and there was just like a familial thing there that kind of wasn't there with Zenith, because he kind of was able to talk to him man to man in a way. And then later in life, more recent, he got to meet him again when he was, a little bit of a teenager. Got to spend time with him there, reconcile with him. Again, it was very much Paul. And then again, most recently, it was Paul, all to save Zenith. So it's like from a parental figure, it's very sad to see in a way, because it's like the wrong parent died in a sense. And I think if both of them could choose, they would choose Paul. And I think that's kind of sad. Although neither would, I just think that that's the reality. So that, all those emotional moments happen. And then we finally get to Roxy. Everybody leaves, Alina, Lisa, and all of them leave. And it's finally Roxy. And Roxy stays back. Everybody else leaves, he thanks everybody for helping him and all that stuff. Everyone leaves. And then Roxy's left behind. And then now it's the moment of, he's like, okay, Sylphie, we gotta talk. And he brings it up. I want to get married to her. She's gonna be part of our family. And Norn loses her shit, and Norn just goes after her. It finally takes Sylphie a little bit, because like I've talked about in past episodes, Sylphie has mentioned before, although Rudy has said otherwise, but she kind of made peace before with knowing that Rudy is Paul's son and he might have somebody else. And the fact is, she knows of Roxy. She knows how much Rudy has talked about her through the years, about his master, about the water god, about his teacher, about his, I don't know if she knows about his his special prayer item, but she knows of her a lot. So Sylphie is the one that extends the hand out after getting mauled by Norn, and finally reaching out and saying it's okay, and they come to an understanding and they shake hands, and Roxy has this really emotional moment of thankfulness and knowing that the person that they need to get permission from, they just did, and now they've entered in this three-way love triangle, which I think Sylphie and Roxy are really going to get along very well. So big wins for Rudy. And then the last thing I'll leave off on, because I started the episode with, Rudy having that emotional talk with Paul at the end, is his kid being born. And that was my favorite part of this show. Outside of Roxy, love Roxy. Outside of Roxy, was his kid being born. And that for me hit the most, because I think that, and if anybody who's watching, if you're a parent, I think that is the switch in life that you have. And if you guys haven't gotten there yet, hey, no rush towards it. But when you do, I think that something just changes in life, especially that moment where you do hold your baby for the first time and you look into their eyes. And he had a baby girl here, and honestly, I kind of like cried a little bit. Like it all wells up, because you just know that feeling, and I think that they captured it so well. Rudy kind of like having that switch change from kid or adult or just somebody who doesn't matter in a sense, because like, do you really matter in the world, to now having this child to where they have now become the most important thing and you have to be that person for them, so it's like you suddenly go from not mattering to really mattering and finally like knowing your place in the world. And I think that that's just such an important moment in human life, and it was awesome to see it encapsulated here with Rudy. And I just thought that that was just such a perfectly captured emotional moment, because I don't think there's anything else that can replace that feeling of when you hold your baby for the first time. And it's just like you become, especially from a man's perspective, you become a dad. It's like it's finally, it's real, and it's so hard to put into words, but it's like this emotional moment, and they just really captured it, and that was my favorite moment of the episode. So to put a button in it, at the end of the episode, they also announced season 3 of Mushoku Tensei returning. So I just wanted to say, guys, this has been an awesome journey to share with you. Mushoku Tensei, like I said, masterclass, masterpiece, and I think they captured everything that I wanted to see this episode. During the montage at the end, they showed Eris, which, she's going to come back in. At what point in the show, I don't know. Is she going to come back in season 3? But they finally showed Eris, kind of standing there looking very majestic with her sword. Maybe she now feels like she's up to snuff to match Rudy, and that's really what she's been training for, is to make herself better to finally be able to stand next to Rudy. But little does she know, there's 2 beautiful, perfect women already standing next to her. So what does that mean? How is Eris going to locate Rudy? What's going to happen? Hopefully we find out in season 3. Even if we don't, we'll find out in season 4 or whatever. But, they showed her, and they showed her for a reason. And then they also showed everybody else. They showed Cliff and Alina Elise being back together. They showed Baghdadi traveling with our boy Rugert. I was like, that's random. So it's very interesting to see what's going to happen next. But wow, thank you guys for being with me for this journey. This is the longest video I've made all week in a long time, all season. And I just want to say thank you guys so much. It's such an important anime, I think, to a lot of us. And keep supporting the show. Keep if you haven't watched the dub, watch the dub. Give it a rewatch. I know I'm going to. I'm gonna do that with the wife. We're gonna rewatch the dub. But what an important anime. And just thank you guys for being on this journey with me. I'll see you guys in the summertime as we start our summer journey with a lot of different summer anime. And of course, I will see you guys back for season 3 of Mushoku Tensei, probably next year or whenever that ends up happening. All right, my friends, it's been an awesome journey. Peace out.